Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Welcome back to Matter of Facts.
Hi! Long time no see.
Every time, you ever notice that every time my wife is my co-host, we start off an episode with me giving her a look? It's usually because we're having a conversation right before we go live, and she's usually
saying... He was telling me I was being petty.
You were being petty.
I am the queen of petty.
Petty is her middle name. But anyway, I traded in Nick and Andrew for a cuter co-host, so we've got that going for us. Patrons, always got to thank them. Thanks for supporting my sociopathy. Thanks for supporting the shit show and keeping the show on the rails as best y'all are able. Or as much as I allow y'all to, because sometimes this thing just comes off the rails. If you're into merch, those links are in the show description. I can almost never say that without stumbling over my words, but the links are down there because I do at least do the prep work for the show really well. It's once we get live that it just goes to hell in a handbasket.
Why do you sound so nervous?
Because I'm beguiled by your beauty.
Okay. We didn't turn on the lights either. He's lost his mind.
Well, it's been a long week because of Cypress Survivalist.
Cypress Survivalist. That's what we're here to do.
Yes. So we've been up to our literal eyeballs for several weeks now and a couple of months before that, getting ready for our first event, which is coming up day after tomorrow.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, because if you're watching the streaming, it's day after tomorrow. If you're listening to this in audio, it's the next day. But I did have to change the banner, though, because we were going to host this outdoors at the Big Pavilion at Fountain State Park in Mandeville, Louisiana, and those plans have suddenly had to be altered because Mother Nature just decided no.
Yeah, it's supposed to rain, hail, the whole 9 yards. We were supposed to be outside all day to do this event, and then no, we're not doing that. I still have a fear of thunderstorms from Ida. That's still very much a thing. So the thought of being outside trying to teach a class while thunderstorms were rolling in, no, not for me.
Yeah. So for anybody who's watching this or listening to this that was planning on attending, please check your spam folders, because apparently that's where our notification went for everybody.
Yeah. So it's really, yeah, I can see how many people have opened the emails and whatnot, but because, I don't know, just because of some email services and things like that, it could be in your spam folder. Just check that out. But if you're listening or if you're watching this, maybe on Instagram, Facebook, wherever we're going to post this later, we've moved it from the pavilion to the meeting room. So when you go to pay your fee to go into the park, which is $3 per person, then you just ask them where the meeting room is. It's one right-hand turn. You go all the way down, and it's going to be the last left. Well, the second to last left. You'll see the signs. Look for the signs. It says, "Get ready, North Shore."
We will put up signs on the side of the road. I'm actually going to swing through the pavilion to pick up any stragglers that might be out there and lead them to the promised land. But we're trying to get the word out because, like, I desperately don't want y'all to be sitting out there at, like, 7:30, 7:45, like, where the hell is this? And where are these people? Because, you know, it was our original intent to have this event outdoors, mostly at my insistence, and because we didn't realize the classroom was an option until we were in a scramble to figure out where we were going to move this thing due to weather, and then Gillian was like, you know, they have a classroom there, right? And I was like, I was today years old when I learned that.
Yeah, they have a they have a classroom, but that's for the rangers who do educational classes during the day for campers and things like that. But the meeting room is where we're at. So Don't look for the classroom. Look for the meeting room. That's where you're going. Also, again, signs. We'll have signs out.
And the email has a map in it.
Yes, I did include a map.
So yeah, that's the long and short of it. And we are backing the event up from 8 a.m. start time to 9 a.m. for the same reason. We can't get the keys to open the place up until, 08. So that kind of backed up our whole timetable a little bit. But it'll work out. We'll make the best of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think having it up here, or having it, I say up in the meeting room because it is a raised facility.
That is one thing I found out today. There is a wheelchair accessible lift. It is out of service. So...
Yeah, so we're kind of just working with what we got at this point. Had the weather stayed pretty, I think we could have kept it at the pavilion. It's not for me to say, it's obviously it's not a handicapped accessible facility, which is their problem. It could result in fines. I don't know. But anyway, the lift is not going to be available on Saturday to get anybody in a wheelchair. So I'm kind of hoping that we don't have that, but if not, then we can figure out a way to get you up the 2 flights of stairs, because it is a raised building. It is right on Lake Pontchartrain, so it floods whenever we have a thunderstorm go through.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you, every time we have a good hurricane, there's probably 6 to 8 feet of storm surge right underneath that building.
Well, the storm surge is what took out the cabins right on the lake.
Yeah. Right
there. That are 100 feet, 100 yards, not feet, 100 yards from where we're going to be. But it's beautiful, and it's going to be really nice. And so, yeah, we've kind of been working on this nonstop since we've incorporated, which was back in October. Mm-hmm. What do you want to talk about? Are we talking about the event? Are we talking about the business?
I kind of wanted to talk about the whole thing because, when we started this thing, it was kind of it was a wild ass idea, and it seems to have taken on a life of its own in the meantime. I had originally envisioned this as we'll just do an event, as a couple of knuckleheads and see if we can get some support from the local community. And Gillian, my wife, and my sister both vetoed that idea hard, and we're like, no. We need to make this legit. We need to set up a nonprofit. We need to incorporate. We need to file paperwork with the IRS. By the way, if you don't already not like bureaucracies, don't start a nonprofit in this country. Nothing makes me from a happy little libertarian into a borderline anarchist faster than having to do government paperwork, and there's a lot of it involved.
There is. And there's a lot of upkeep too. So lots of reports. There's a lot that goes into having a nonprofit, which, Phil and I have had a lot of conversations, since we started this whole business venture down this road. And I guess really to start it off, this was a dream and something that Phil has been wanting to do since he started Matter of Facts, the podcast. And what we discussed, and I think we discussed this a little bit on Raising Values before we went off the air with that podcast for a little while. What we discussed was that Matter of Facts has reached a good amount of people, and it's done what you set out to do. And now we're looking at doing these small events in almost like a pod situation kind of thing, or a larger pod. I don't know, Saturday we'll have about 25 people there, which for our first event as a nonprofit who incorporated less than 6 months ago, that's pretty good. But our plan is to build on that and possibly have 100 people at one of our events one year. And, just kind of figuring out, do we host one event a year? Do we host two events in a year? Do we keep it at Fontainebleau? So we're going to learn a lot on Saturday. We're going to see what works and doesn't work, see how much effort we can put into this, because we are volunteers in our own organization. And this does take a lot of time and effort to do, because it's not just filing paperwork with the government, and it's not just making sure your minutes are written up after your board meetings and finding board members and volunteers and all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into social media, and you got to look at there's just a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into.
And the thing that's been very instructional for me, because like when we first started this, I was very emphatic with you about the fact that you are the only one out of the four of us that's ever done this before. So we're kind of going to be looking to you like, with the goofy look on our face, like, does this work? Is this the right thing to do? This is what we should be doing? Because it's like, I told Gillian just today, I'm like, I have worked at 0 nonprofits. I have done this 0 times. And I'm learning this at full speed, right along with everybody else, which is very much the way I learned how to podcast. Like, I literally, for those of you who haven't heard the story, I was off work for a day, something got into my head, and I Googled how to start a podcast. Because that's what millennials do when you don't know what you're trying to do and don't have anybody to teach you. And I feel like I'm right back where I started, but now you're Google.
I was like, wait, what?
How do I do this? How does this work? What are we supposed to do? Like, to me, you have some experience with this. To me, there's no roadmap for this. It is just put the car in drive and see where we go.
And no, I can't do that. I can't put the car in drive and just see where we end up, because it just doesn't, it's not going to work like that. And I've probably added more stress upon myself than I needed to, but I want this event to be, this is like your first impression of a company that you're putting your trust in to teach you about things that you obviously care about. So I want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward on Saturday. And, we'll see what happens. It can only get better from here. I've done a lot. I've worked in nonprofits my entire life or my entire career since I graduated from college. And we'll see what happens. It's a lot of work.
We have comments to hit. And
okay.
This one's probably pertinent. Raggle Fraggle asking where have we advertised, because he's literally only heard us talk about it.
So, again, I'm a one-man, one-woman show. I am the one who's been working with the government, getting our forms together. I'm in charge of social media. I'm in charge of the event, all that stuff. And so we've only advertised on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And it hasn't been a lot. I mean, those of you who follow Raising Values knows that I am horrible as being a social media manager. I don't want to do the advertising. I don't want to do social media, but obviously that's where we're going to hit our biggest market. We had some other plans to advertise, like on the radio. We have a station here that people actually listen to the radio still. And so we had thought about that, but with my dad's heart surgery and then the kind of, I guess not fallout, but the fallout after that, It's just been very difficult to juggle my dad and this event and work, and I'm a mom, and it's just and so we've really just been doing Facebook and Instagram and the podcast, talking about it on the podcast.
I mean, that was what I was going to point out, was that like when we had originally conceived all of this, it was probably a month after that we found out your dad was going to have open heart surgery, which... Well,
we incorporated in October. My mother was hospitalized for the entire month of November. My dad found out that he had to have heart surgery that first week of December. He had the heart surgery in January. He was in the hospital for over a month, or about a month. And then here's the event.
And then it's March. So yeah, we
you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean,
and what you can do.
Yeah, and thanks Terrence for reminding everybody, if you don't hit the like button, the Rougarou will get you in your sleep, and if you don't know what the Rougarou is, you're not from Louisiana. Facts.
That Rougarou man, he likes, to make sure you hit that like, follow, and share button, right? He also is watching, too, if you are going over to the Cypress Survivalist Instagram and Facebook pages and following and sharing there, too. Just FYI, that Rougarou, he'll get you.
See, you're so much better at this than I am.
What? What did I do? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of a lot of what I guess I wanted to talk about for as long as this runs was like, try to get the word out about the fact that we are making some last minute adjustments to our first event.
And you can still register. Our capacity is 50 for this event. That includes the four of us and, whatever. So the capacity is 50. We're at about 25. So we still have room if you want to come to the event. You can, there are links on our social media. We don't have a website yet. We're getting there. I'm getting there. I promise. But I don't know. Phil probably has the form link to register for the event. You do need to register just so that we have an idea of who's coming. Make sure we have enough parking, all that kind of stuff. Registration for the event. So I've already learned a couple of things. Once we get a website, we'll make sure to put the hold harmless and rules about events and all that stuff on there. But as of right now, seeing how we're only 5 months old, almost 6 months old, when you do come, you will have to sign a hold harmless agreement. Just basically what it says is we can take your picture and use it for marketing. It means that you're not going to take the information and do something stupid and then sue us later.
If you try to use a tourniquet for a head wound, that's your fault, not ours.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then, but there's just all sorts of things. It just means that you're taking your life in your own hands with this. Not that you're going to have to take your life in your own hands. We're not doing anything dangerous. We're just teaching and talking.
So speaking of teaching, what are we going to teach? What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so we because of the change in the time schedule, we did have to drop one of our classes, but fortunately it worked out because it was a class that I did not advertise for, because I guess I just didn't realize that Phil had a fourth class that he was going to teach. So anyway,
it was a boring one anyway.
So we're going to start the morning off with I can't remember. Intro to medical. The first class is going to be practical prepping. So it's going to be an intro to what is survivalism, what is prepping, what is this lifestyle about, what
I call it the base layer.
Yeah, it's the foundation of what we've done as a family and what most people most people that we know that are in this lifestyle, just the basics. That's what we're going to go through. And then Becca is going to be teaching. Becca is Phil's sister, and she's the vice president on the board. She's going to be teaching Intro to Medical. She is an extremely brilliant paramedic who has been, I think since she was 15, she's been doing some sort of medical something.
And ever since she's been with her current employer, I think every single time they've gotten the call to send a jump team out for a major natural disaster, mostly hurricanes down here, she's been on those teams. So she actually goes all over the world. Yeah. Every time there's a bunch of people that are hurt, she winds up in the middle of it.
Yeah. When I tell you extremely brilliant, and then this is how different we are. We were at dinner the other night at their house, and she was talking about something she worked that the day before, the couple of days before or whatever, and she's just gung-ho. It's the coolest thing ever. His bone was sticking out of his leg, and yes. I'm just going, I can't. Yeah, so, and then she was showing us, it's going to be really cool. So a lot of the things that we're doing they are hands-on classes. You will get to see things. You might get to try things. You especially will get to try things with Becca and her Intro to Medical. She's got a training dummy there, and you have to use a tourniquet to stop the bleed. So she will be teaching, about stopping the bleed and all that stuff. I'm telling you, it's going to be a very interesting class. I think people are going to walk away going, wow, I didn't even think about that kind of stuff. So after Intro to Medical, we take a little break. And then I come on board and I'm teaching Harvesting from Nature. So I'll be talking about, my life as a, herbalist, I guess you could say that
Nature
nerd. And it's, again, basics on how to how to harvest from nature, what plants to harvest from nature, what are they used for, how do you, what is the process of it? So you harvested it, now you need to dry it, or are you going to use it fresh? And then what do you make out of it? And then what do these plants actually help in healing? And so we'll talk about that. I could probably teach an 8-hour class on that. But Phil gave me a 30-minute. Phil gave me 30 minutes to talk about harvesting from nature.
I did tell you if you wanted an hour, we've just pulled from somewhere else. Like, that was all on the table.
No. So we'll do harvesting from nature with this event. And then we'll remind me to talk about thoughts for a second event in the year.
That's on March 9th.
I know. We keep saying that's a March 9th. That's a March 9th question. That's a March 9th.
We had to install that guardrail because, like, the closer we got to the event, the more hanging chads we found. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we just had to get to a point where we were like, everything from here to here is a March 9th problem.
Yeah. But when I wrote my curriculum out, I actually wrote not just harvesting plants from nature. I wrote about what insects and bugs and alternate sources of protein can be harvested from nature if you're like in a situation and you just don't have anything to eat. You can't find anything to eat. Well, there's tons of things that you can eat in nature if you know what to look for. And so I really do want to teach that class. That might be a class for the second event that we host in the year. All right. So after that, we come back from lunch, which we're giving a pretty nice chunk of the day to lunch. And the reason for that is 2 hours we're breaking for lunch. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to sit and talk with these people. We want to talk about the things that they're here to learn. We want to give ourselves more time. Plus food. Hello, Louisiana. We don't need an excuse to eat. We just need to, we just eat. So a 2-hour lunch to kind of visit with the attendees and things like that. Anyway, so we'll come back, and after that we have intro to.
You're the one that.
Oh wait, no, I think I'm before lunch and after lunch, harvesting from nature, and then.
She's the one that wrote the schedule. I have to get a printed copy of it so I know what's going on with it.
Then we'll have use of force with Ross, who is one of our board members, and Becca's husband, who is Phil's best friend since they were 15. It's a really sweet story how his best friend married his sister that he didn't meet his sister until you were what, 22, 23. So it's a sweet story. Anyway, he is a deputy here in St. Tammany Parish.
Yeah.
I think I can say that. And so he'll be teaching use of force and the laws that you have to consider when using force.
Those will be very specific to Louisiana, which is, I mean, the whole idea of this was teaching a local event that's really tailored to what we have in this area. But I feel like with use of force, a lot of the principles can loosely apply to other areas. But obviously, if you're not from Louisiana, then the things you learn in that class might require some interpretation in your locality.
After that, Phil comes back with financial readiness, which is something that
the most boring class that it never ceases to amaze me that people are actually interested in that class.
Well, and I think that's something that we always harp on especially on Matter of Facts, and we harp on with Raising Values podcast, is the financial stability that you need to create for yourself. And so Phil's going to talk through that and see what questions might lie there. Kind of like Dave Ramsey Jr. He's going to get up there and I'm going to have to be like, you're done. Like, your 30 minutes is up. Get out of here. Like, we can't talk about this anymore. They're falling asleep in the back. They're leaving, Phil.
And that's the funny thing, because like
maybe we should have put that in the morning.
We talked about this on Matter of Facts every so often, and like, I don't even feel like it's so much like Dave Ramsey. To me, it's just a lot of like, I don't know, it's a lot of common sense. But it's also a lot of, if you don't do it, it will screw you over in the end, which is why I harp on it. Right. Oh, excuse me.
It's been a hard week being off for Mardi Gras.
I promise you I've let her sleep.
Okay, so after that, then I'll come back on with prepping with kids, which is one of my, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in that, but that seems to be where when I'm asked to do like special events or, when I did the, Women Who Prep conference, that was what they wanted me to talk about, was prepping with kids. And so I'll discuss what it's like to incorporate your entire family into the lifestyle. I'll talk about the emotional needs that you have to remember. So, talking about prepping is not just rice and beans. You got to have some chocolate in there. You got to think about their clothes. You got to think about they're going to grow. You got to think all of the emotional part of it. And so I'll be talking about prepping with kids, and then Phil's going to round out the whole day with comms, which is another thing I'm going to have to be like, it's 4:00. I need you to stop. Maybe we should get you to talk about coffee. I mean, we'll never leave.
We'll never leave. But no, I mean, and
I'm joking with you.
I know you are. But I was thinking, I think part of the reason why you always get asked about prepping with kids is because you've been working with children since college.
Yeah, tell me about it.
You're into. I mean, look, that's the line of work you chose. I don't work with kids I work with adults that act like kids, but not children.
Sometimes I wonder if that's better or worse.
It's worse. It's much worse. Okay. But because at least when they're kids, legitimately kids, you can get into that whole, their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet, and try to give them some grace.
Do you know how many times I tell myself that on a daily basis? They have no prefrontal cortex. They have no frontal cortex.
I mean, I say that about my coworkers sometimes, but I get told that it sounds ugly when I say it.
They may not have their prefrontal cortex.
Some of them I'm pretty sure don't, but I think that's why, you've been working with kids basically your entire adult career, and you were also in a lifestyle that most people, they might have kids, but it's like the preparedness is administered to them. They're not an active participant. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Whereas in this family, we are very much in the mind of everyone has a job, everybody has a thing to do, and there have been moments in our marriage where we have, in a microcosm, had to test that. And Piper has consistently, when it's go time, that little girl's her boots hit the floor and she's going.
She did it the other day. I know that's not what this whole conversation's about, but I made one of the dumbest mistakes. I still kicked myself up over this.
Oh, that.
I was cleaning a knife, and stupid me decided to, it makes me want to vomit. I decided to, I don't know if you can see me. Where am I? I decided to clean the blade like this, and I ran my hand down the blade, and I cut this finger all the way open. There's blood everywhere.
It was a little cut.
It was not a little cut. I still have a scar. I have a scar. Anyway.
I told you it was kind of scar.
It was so bad. I was screaming and hollering. I wouldn't let Phil look at it. I wouldn't let go of it. I was applying so much pressure to it that I was afraid to take my hand off of it. It was awful. But there's my kid. She's ready to go. If we got to go to the ER to get stitches, let's go, Mom. I'm ready to go. I later apologized to her. I was like, I'm so sorry I scared you tonight. And she goes, oh, you didn't scare me. What did she say? Oh, you didn't scare me. I just nearly shit in my pants or something like that. Oh, yeah, that's what she said. Something like that.
Well, and again, not to sound like I'm poking fun, but the way you were screaming, I fully expected to see your bone poking out the tip of your finger. And then when I finally saw the cut, I was like, oh, we're not going to get a stitch. That's a little cut. We'll just go deal with that here.
Whatever. I went into a full-blown panic attack, which is most of what Phil and Piper saw was the panic attack.
That's why I gently grabbed her by both wrists and literally holding her by the wrist brought her to the bathroom.
He had to pry my hand off of my finger.
I didn't pry. I talked you off the ledge, and eventually you let go.
Oh, it was awful. And I think what it was more mental, because I felt that knife go through the skin and fat of my finger, and I will never forget what that felt like. I think I'm going to take a walk when Becca does intro to medical. That is not me.
Interestingly enough, that was the impetus for me and Nick doing a whole bathroom sink dump of all of our medical supplies.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Glad I could be of service.
Hey, that's
I
what
do
you're
have
here
a
for.
pretty little scar on my finger.
It's just a little scar.
Just a little scar.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like what we're teaching is a good cross section of like the idea of preparedness, because I saw Joe, I think jokingly asked CQB land nav and counter sniper. So here's the thing, like, there's not many things I rule out of that huge umbrella that is preparedness. I think if you do it for the purposes of like trying to mitigate a threat to you and your family, you can put it under the big tent that is preparedness. But I think that, especially for people that are just coming into this, I think the things to really hyper focus on, I just knocked a whole bunch of stuff off the edge of my desk with my elbow. But I think the things to hyper focus on are the most mundane things that people that have been in this lifestyle for a while are probably going to roll their eyes at. It's do you have a home budget? Are you out of debt, at least to the degree you can be? Do you have a couple extra months of food and water stocked away? Do you have some medical stuff in case somebody gets hurt in your house?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really feel like we hit those basics. We hit the very mundane topics. We dig into a lot of concepts. Like, that's going to be a lot of what I talk about in comms. I'm not going to sit there and teach everybody how to build a radio from scratch. I'm not going to teach everybody how to build an antenna from scratch. Most of y'all don't care. But what I am going to teach is a lot of principles of communications, having a communications plan. I'm going to mix in some military concepts like signals intelligence and comm security, which, by the way, also applies to social media. Like, I know you and I have talked in the past about how, like, we don't make a habit of telling everybody, being all over social media too much while we're on vacation, because we don't want people that are watching that to be like, oh, the Rabalais are out of town. Great time to go rob their house. And we don't advertise ahead of time that we're leaving except to a few trusted people.
We try not to.
Well, those are all principles that come directly from communication security. Mm-hmm. It is controlling the information you let out so that people who might act upon it in a negative way don't have that information, or that information is not useful to them. It's like, why do you think we wait until we're on our way home before we blast social media with all the pictures we took? Because by the time anybody realizes we're gone, we'll be home. Mm-hmm. But again, what I'm seeking to do with this whole experience, with the Get Ready event, is I'm trying to give people that are already in this lifestyle a smattering of subjects, so that maybe somewhere in there is something they hadn't thought about or they didn't have experience in, and they can improve their position. But I'm also trying to make it super accessible to a brand new person and be like, hey, look, this is a big tent. Everyone fits under it. If this is what you're interested in, then go do that. And if this is what you're interested in, go do that. And you should probably do a little of everything and be a jack of all trades. But I want this to be an event that entrenches people who are already kind of curious about this lifestyle, and an event that brings people in who maybe didn't think much about it in the past, or they had a connotation in their head about what preparedness was. And I want to break that down for them and be like, no. If you have money in your savings account, that's preparedness. If you have a 401k and a retirement, that's preparedness. Like, preparedness is a huge tent. And for a lot of years growing up, there was a stigma attached to it where people didn't feel like it was a big tent. They felt like it was a little tent, and if they didn't fit in under it, they didn't fit.
Yeah.
I want to break that down so that people understand that everyone can fit. There's room for everybody. There's 100 ways to do this, and there's not many wrong ways.
Yeah.
Except to not be prepared.
Mm-hmm. What else? I loved Raggle Fraggle's comment about I won't eat bugs. I don't know where you're from, but if you like a good...
He's from Louisiana.
Are you? Well, how about that? You know, it is my favorite bug season, those crawfish, which we're going to a crawfish boil next weekend.
And I swear I swear to God, Raggle Fraggle, if you're over there typing, that's different. All I can tell you is, because this little lady worked alongside a lot of biologists and entomologists over the years, genetically, there's not a lot of difference between crawfish and insects.
They're arthropods. An insect is an arthropod. A crawfish is an arthropod.
I just said there's not a lot of difference between them.
Oh, okay. Okay. I must have misheard you then. They are delicious.
They are very similar.
They are delicious arthropods. So are shrimp, although I'm not a big shrimp eater. But I think that will be a class I do teach at one of these events. And maybe somebody will be like, oh yeah, okay. Why do they look like lobsters? Well, a lobster is an arthropod as well. It's all in crustacea. They're all crustaceans, and they all taste delicious. Very much so, with a little bit of that crawfish sauce. Woo! Can't wait! It's my favorite time of year. Crawfish season. I don't really eat lobster, though. I just wait for the little buggers to come out. Only in a gumbo stew kind of thing. Cabo the boil? What does that mean, Joe? Oh, can't do the boil.
Can't do the boil.
Joe, you need to come back down here and then let's do it properly. That's all I'm saying. Andrew came for one of our crawfish boils, my brother-in-law's crawfish boils, a couple of years ago, and
there's a picture of me and him in lawn chairs, passed smooth out.
I think his life changed that day. I think it was a miraculous, life-changing day with the boudin and the shrimp and the crawfish, and
it couldn't have been that good.
We had 2 cakes and yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think that's a class. You know, so we're talking about doing two events a year.
Potentially.
Depending on our sanity levels at that time. Potentially. But making it, or at least doing one event a year and then expanding it into 2 days. Because, you know, Fontainebleau State Park, where we're hosting this, is a pretty big state park. There's campsites, there's RV sites, there's cabins, there's not a lodge, but there's beautiful cabins on the water, all that stuff. And we literally live 4 miles from Fontainebleau, so that makes it really nice to just, you know, wake up in the morning and we're 4 miles from the event. But, you know, if we make this a 2-day event, then we can have a sort of you know, more of a bonding atmosphere and actually teach more classes that we feel like we're kind of just, you know, we've run out of time during the day to teach everything that we want to teach. And if you can get people to commit to a weekend, that's going to be easier than getting people to commit to 2 different events during the year. So anyway, we got a lot to learn and a lot to figure out after this event. That's a March 9th issue. We will see what happens after that. And just, you know, like I emailed one of our attendees this morning. It's like or yesterday, just keep watching social media. And we do have I can send newsletters and things like that, much to Kyle's chagrin, because I haven't gotten a newsletter for Matter of Facts or Raising Values, but I might do something, I might not, I don't know. Again, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So.
But I will say that, like, yeah, the thing I talked about earlier was the whole reason that we pivoted towards doing these in-person events. Like, I feel like there is always only going to be so many people we're going to be able to reach on a podcast, especially a long-form podcast, through streaming. We're going to hit a ceiling sooner or later. There are no, and especially the podcast market is so hyper-saturated. But I really feel that by pivoting towards doing in-person events, and with the Envision model we have of being able to do like an event here in Mandeville and then do another one in another part of the state and move this around a little bit. Somebody slamming a car door.
Yeah, but it sounded like it was at our house. Anyway,
we have the ability to catch a broader audience in a narrower focal area. We're not just blasting it out to the internet to people all around the world. Now we're kind of hyper-focusing in on, we want to get people here on the North Shore, Lake Pontchartrain. We want to try to get people maybe out towards Lake Lafayette, Lake Charles. We want to try to get people maybe up towards Alexandria. And every one of those is another little market that can be tapped to try to like link people together in that community and get them into a good base layer of preparedness. Because what I envision down the road is, like, the day after Hurricane Ida, we had the biggest crab sandwich to eat on this whole street. Mm-hmm. We had trees down in the yard, trees on the house. We had lots of problems. But in spite of the fact that we were in that rough a shape, we were better prepared than anybody else on the block. We were in a better position to help ourselves, to help our neighbors. And, like, we had lots of problems, but we weren't freaked out about it. We were just kind of like, oh, this is going to be a freaking mess to deal with. I want a Rabalais family in every community. So that when things go to hell in a handbasket, there's a family out there who is indoctrinated in this lifestyle, who can help themselves and help their neighbors. And I think that if we can use this organization to build that local community power, then this will have accomplished exactly what I want it to. Because ultimately, one family of, people that are in the preparedness lifestyle living on an island isn't going to do much good. What we need to do is have several families in an area who know each other, who have plans together, who are all kind of on the same page, and when the flag goes up, they can all help each other. Mm-hmm. That's my ultimate goal.
We'll get there.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to chuck in here, or...
No.
Do you need a cup of coffee?
Yes. I'm sorry for yawning so much. He just keeps me working, even on my breaks. Never get a break. I did sleep really late today, though.
Don't let her fool you. I was up at 0600 this morning for work. I've worked the entire break. We have both worked the entire break.
Mm-hmm. We have. But anyway.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and pack this in. I really wasn't sure if we were going to be doing a podcast episode this week because of all the insanity, but especially with the last minute pivot in the time and the specific location of the event, it seemed appropriate. We will wait and see if we're talking about this again next week, like some lessons learned or whatever else, or if Nick comes back from his well-earned vacation and we just hit the ground running with normal matter-of-fact topic stuff. We'll figure it out. But I can't say that for everybody who's supported us in this effort, and there have been people who've offered, just to help get the word out, to come attend the event themselves, to support us. A kind word, encouragement, it has all been super, super appreciated because I'm not going to lie, I've had mini panic attacks 3 or 4 times where I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, we're about to do this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. This is a lot.
I don't even have one of my speeches written yet. I gotta do that. I'm just gonna wing it like I did here.
I mean, I bullet pointed all my classes out months ago, but now we're getting down to the wire, and I'm telling Gillian, I'm like, okay, I need a copy of the class schedule because I have no earthly idea who's going where because that all got moved around. I need to print all my classes so I can keep myself on track. It's just,
You could have made yourself a PowerPoint like I did.
Well, until 2 days, until yesterday, we didn't even know that we were going to have a monitor that was going to be an option. So,
I gotta go get some coffee.
She's got to get some coffee. I've got to go, I don't know, do founder of nonprofit stuff, whatever that winds up being.
Well, I'm glad you had me on. It was nice to be behind the mic again. Maybe we'll get Raising Values back up and running eventually.
People have asked about you.
I know.
Any Sunday you're ready.
I'm not.
You need your
ready.
therapy hour, though.
I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. So, anyway, it was good to see all you guys. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day.
Yep. And hopefully we'll have an uneventful event.
Stop it. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.